Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us for our club forum for May. Thanks very much, obviously, for giving up some of your time to come across and listen to what we've got to say today. It's important that at this stage of the season that we get the opportunity to reach out to all of our clubs, give them a bit of an update in terms of where or County FA business is. I appreciate that, obviously, football's restarted in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure you've all full to the brim in terms of games, training, and return to play, and all of the things that come along with getting back on the field of play. But it's good to have everybody back, obviously playing football, not only for yourselves but for the county, and get us all switched back onto some kind of normality. The idea of tonight is we're just going to cover some County FA business, give you a bit of an update, and then towards the end of the session, obviously we'll stay online and have a chat, no problems. Like I said, the session's been recorded for the show that you can look back, and those that can't make this evening can obviously catch up with what the important things that we've got to say, and the usual stuff for online. If you can just keep yourselves on mute, and if you want to ask a question, either pop it into the chat or raise your hand, and we'll come to you at a natural breakage when we can get across to you. So in terms of this evening, what we're going to do is, obviously, we've welcomed you in. I've got an introduction in just a second to make with some new county staff that you might not be familiar with, or you may have seen some emails but maybe not put face to the name. We're going to cover club development. So the FA have been working on several programmes during lockdown and obviously the recent change with Coach Ed, etc. So I'll give you a bit of an update in terms of club development. We want to have a look at the discipline side of things as well, because I think it's important to stress some of the key factors that have arisen, mainly through the return to play, which I think you need to be aware of. And importantly, obviously, this stage of the season is that you're all about to re-affiliate. So we're going to cover some re-affiliation, and then we're going to close with safeguarding, and then answer your questions. So if you can't hear me, it might be your end, unless there's a lot of people can't hear me. If lots of people can't hear me and I'm just waving to the screen, stick something in the chat. But Dave, you might need to just log out and log back in again. All right, so just in terms of introductions, obviously on the call we've got quite a decent representation from county staff. Obviously, I'm my football development officer. You're fairly familiar with me by now, I'm certain. We've also got Leanne on the call, our football development manager, and obviously leads on facilities and deputy CEO. So she's online to be able to give you, answer any questions that you may have on that side of things. We've got Julie Mitchell from our football services team. Most of you will have probably have bent Julie's ear regarding affiliation and various bits and bobs at the moment. So, but she's online to give you a bit of an update. And Rachel from our DSO safeguarding angle. So obviously she'll cover her bits as well a little bit later on. But some of you may not be aware that over the last couple of months we've been recruiting for a football services officer, and we've managed to fill Craig's big boots. So on the call this evening, we've got Matt, who will be taking on that responsibility, but I'm going to leave it open to him to give you a bit of an introduction in terms of where he's come from, his football background, and his key job roles within the county. So Matt, this is your time to shine.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I've come from Middlesex, where I was doing discipline and safeguarding down there. But I've come home to Nottingham to be the tech lead, so work on affiliation and FA systems with Julie and Debbie, and then discipline with Ezekiel as well.
So Matt, in terms of football wise, you're from Nottingham originally, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
So you're familiar with the county?
Yeah, played football since I was 4 or 5 years old, so yeah, grassroots.
And for which club?
Plymouth United back in the day.
and which Nottinghamshire team, pro team are you?
Nottingham Forest, season ticket holder.
Good work. So sorry for all the Pies and the Stags fans on the call, but it's another Forest fan in the midst. So cheers, Matt. Thanks very much for the introductions. Hopefully, yes, most of you will probably have heard from him in the recent weeks. But anything on that side of the business, now you can put a face to the name, and you can obviously be a little bit more personable. Excellent. So in terms of club development, I wanted to give you a bit of an update because I know some of you have had emails in the last couple of weeks regarding the new accreditation. So some of you on the call are a charter standard club, and maybe some of on the call that are looking to be a charter standard club in the future. So it's important to kind of give you a bit of a background. Most of you will have had the information regarding the change. So the Charter Standard Programme has been a core development programme for the FA for just about 20 years or so now. So obviously there was always the club, the development club, and then the community club levels. And then with a whole refresh of the FA kind of grassroots division, they've decided now's the time to kind of change the programme a little bit more, bring it up to date, bring some new branding together, and along that bring some new assets back to the clubs. All right. But I appreciate that a change sometimes is always a little bit confusing for everybody. So I thought it's probably a good time to kind of give you a bit of an update this evening. So the Charter Standard Programme is going to turn into England football accreditation, and it's going to have a rollout. Well, it started to roll out now and will continue to go through the season. And rather than having a tier system or a very visual tier system, it's going to go to a star system, which is obviously 1, 2, and 3 star that you can see on the screen. The criteria behind the scenes hasn't changed a lot, in all fairness. So you still need the club constitutions, your code of conduct, your safeguarding policies, all your respect details, and your coach education. So everybody must be DBS, have the safeguarding, first aid, and level 1. But what has started to change is the kind of number of teams and the recognition of the award. So a 1-star club is going to be a minimum of 1 affiliated team, whether that will be in the male pathway, within the female pathway, or the disability pathway. So it's now recognising across the whole of the FA's, well, the whole of our football offer as well, which then basically means any club can pretty much apply, subject to them meeting the criteria off the field of play as well. And that now the 1-star amalgamates the adult awards. So some of you maybe had a club and then adult, and that's now under one banner. And anybody that has those awards are going to are currently transitioning over into a 1-star club. The 2-star club for the accreditation is a minimum of 1 complete player pathway. Again, so that can be in the male, female, or disability. So we're looking to go from, I think it's 8 teams going across the top to make sure that there's a complete pathway for the players, because the FA is really focused in terms of not just providing ad hoc delivery, but we're looking to try to progress players through the pathway, not only within the club, but obviously competition pathway as well. Excuse me. And finally, the 3-star club, which is going to be our bigger clubs, which is replacing the community club status. Those community clubs are on the call. The criteria remains exactly the same as what you're already working to, pretty much. But it recognises that we need to have 2 complete player pathways, and for the majority of our clubs in the county, that's particularly going to be obviously a male and female pathway. And then we must those clubs, those bigger 3-star clubs, must be providing a disability offer as well. So those that aren't already doing so, that are community clubs, we obviously help you and support you in terms of getting those online if you've not already got them in place or already got those links in place. In terms of the accreditation, in terms of those star processes, that if there is clubs at the moment that you are between a level, for example, the FA are looking at in terms of how you associate with another club. So if you are a 2-star club, but you wanting to become a 3-star club, and maybe the disability angle is the stumbling point, then it might be that a partnership with a local want to play, or with the want to play league and some of the provision in that competition, maybe we may be able to help you and get you agreements across. So you may, whereas if you're an existing 3-star club and you don't have a disability offer at the moment, we can obviously make sure that you don't lose that accreditation, and you can and we can support you with a disability section. I think it's important to state that the FA are moving you all the charge standard at the moment automatically across. So that's already in process and should be visible in your whole game system as early as next month. So if it's not already there now, so the level, and you will know which level you already sit at generally. It will just get accredited across now. So if you're a charter standard club, you'll be a 1-star. If you're a development club at the moment, you'll become a 2-star. And if you're community, you'll become a 3-star club. All right. So you'll see all that in your whole game system over the next couple of weeks. And I'll open it to some questions in just a second, just once I give you a bit of a timeline. So obviously this month you've had the notification of change. I know the FA have sent every club something direct into the club secretaries or the main point of contact. And I know that I think it was last week, Monday or Tuesday, I topped that up and sent everything out to all of our clubs as a notification of the changes of the award. So you should be aware. Those that already, and this applies to leagues as well, those that are already charter standard and have the accreditation, you'll be getting your physical and digital assets next month. So the rollout of that will start to come to next month. And then that means then you will have the updated branding, so that you'll be able to use, if you have the sleeve patches or you use it on bibs or tracksuits or your social media and all that kind of stuff, you'll have all those assets on its way out to you next month. As with everything, please be patient. It will not drop 1st of June. We may, knowing how sometimes processes work within the FA, it might be towards the end of the month or maybe even July. But the timescale we've been given is June for you to receive them as well. And the physical assets are your balls that you're used to getting on previous charter standard applications. All right, so they'll be also coming out with it. The details of the amounts, etc., will follow very shortly. There'll be a bit of a cooling off period in terms of existing clubs anyway, whilst the FA pull together some support platforms for you. So whereas it was obviously heavily reliant on the county delivering you the message and delivering you that support, the FA are very much taking it on board themselves with obviously our county support as well. So between July and October, they are going to continue their support packages through the In the Box podcast, which hopefully you've had a listen to with the guys from the clubs and accreditation area up at the FA. That will continue to roll out and be updated. And also there, you may have seen that there is an England football accreditation website as well, which is dedicated to the award and giving you some support going forward. And on the back there, there's I don't know if some of you, maybe some of the coaches on the call, maybe had access to Hive originally, which was a massive coaching resource where it's created a community to chat and post session plans and discuss various bits and bobs. But Intelligent is now the FA's arm for that side of things. So they're currently building the platform and the background for that, for you to share good practice with other clubs across the country, be it at whatever size you are, to gain advice and opinions from wider afield, as well as the coach education side of things, and also refereeing sits within Intelligent as a community hub as well. So they're all quite positive steps forward from the FA in terms of that service. And then from November onwards, your accreditation will be open on what is Platform for Football, which will be the new whole game system. I'm not sure if it's still going to say that name, but the new system will have everything updated from November. You'll just get automatically transferred over, so all your administration is very clear there. And then the validation process for the accreditation, which would be technically what we'd call the old school annual health check, starts in November, and you have one complete annual cycle of which to get it. So November 21 will open, November 22 you'll need to have made sure that you hit the criteria that's stated for whichever star level you are. So the year accreditation is obviously to take into allowance that coach education is now with the FA, and courses are at a premium whilst everybody's trying to scramble to get onto the new intro courses. So it just gives you a little bit more time frame in which to achieve that. And obviously, once we have the details of everything that needs to be put into place, we'll come back to you and give you a full update on that. So that's the new England football accreditation, basic information that we know. And I'm happy to answer some questions before we jump on. No, perfect, excellent. All right, if there is anything that crops up, just hang on, have we got a hand? Or someone's coming in. Yeah, sorry, Steve. Yeah, jump in, Steve.
Yeah, just a quick one, mate. You said that all of the coach education is being centralised, which, I mean, you and I spoke about earlier in the year. Is it also true then that the accreditation process is going to get centralised and we'll deal with a central administration point in terms of getting these charter standard or replacement for charter standards? Or are we still going to be dealing with people like yourselves and Julie to reach our criteria?
So it'll absolutely be with us. Absolutely be with us. So you will get all of the digital sections that you need opened up on your platform once it all transfers over. So you'll be able to see everything that's in there. There'll be, as part of the validation process, there'll be action plans that will be live on your portal, which both you and I and whoever nominated in the county can jump into all of the time. So it'll be a live document so that we can work through and understand that maybe you need 10 coaches as with the intro course, or you need a level 2, etc. So that'll all be live, and that'll all be managed by the county, absolutely not by the FA. Your relationship will remain with us.
That's what I'm hoping, mate, to be fair, because we've already lost the education, so I didn't want to lose anything else, you know.
Yeah, no, they can't take everything away from us as much as they've tried. In terms of coach education, I know, Steve, you'll be aware. Maybe some on the call don't know. Coach education is 100% now with the FA in terms of the formal qualification process, and that's all located in the boot room area of fa.com. And you can go on and book onto your Playmaker, which is the intro sessions, and then now with safeguarding's on there, first aid is on there, and also the first draft of your introduction to football coaching courses, which is the old level 1, which is all now online. So that's all available to book. The challenges around maybe some of the bigger clubs on the call is that you'll not be able to, at this moment in time anyway, block book for your club. If you've got 10 members that want to go, at the moment they have to book individually for the time being, but I know FA Education are working on changing that shortly. But you won't also be able to host a club only course like you have done in the past, so it'll all be en masse straight through the boot room and straight through FA Education.
Mark, is it also the case, I mean, previously, if we were putting a coach through the course and we said the club would pay for it, we were able to talk to you guys and you would raise an invoice that the club treasurer would then pay. That sounds like it's going to be a challenge in the future. If people are booking themselves on individually, they're going to have to pay up front, aren't they, and find some way of...
Yes,
don't know what the answer is to that.
The first round and how it's being booked at this moment in time is that they'll have to pay, and they'll have to invoice you back for the amount.
Right.
I have raised it with FA Education, obviously, as many county FAs, and they are looking at a block booking process about how that's managed, but they've just got to work out what their systems are.
Yeah, it's not just about block bookings, about individual coaches who might not be able to afford to pay the money up front and then wait for the club to give it back.
There may be opportunities there that the club can book on their behalf. If there's situations like that, once we're still getting the dribs and drabs of information regarding that, and it's something that we've raised about, kind of, obviously. We've had that close relationship with the clubs to be able to support, and I think you will lose some of that for sure with FA Education. So it's a matter of how that's bridged. But Louise at the education team is from accounting and understands those systems, Steve. So I think once she can come back to us and answer that, we'll forward it back on.
Yeah, that's fine. I just would hate to get into a situation where a coach can't afford the money personally to spend it, and then for the club to give it them back, and that'd be a blocker to getting somebody through the course,
Yeah, there'll be a way around it. There'll be a way, even if we have to log in and somebody sits with him, or you log on his behalf and the club pay for it, or somebody else does it that way. As long as if that fan number and account is accredited to that course, that's the important thing.
Okay, mate. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, Steve. Julie?
Hi. Just one quick question. When people used to book level 1, there was 2 prices. So there was a charter standard price and the normal price. Do you think, is it just one price now, or will that be reintroduced?
Bluntly, it'll be one price. It'll be one price. We have raised it again and again as other county FAs, but I think the FA's thought process is that it'll be standardised coach education fee across everybody, and then where the more face-to-face and the support mechanisms will land with us to support that process. So we invest back into you that way. All right.
Thank you.
Get rid of that one. Okay. Any other questions on club development? Excellent. If there is anything that pops up, please feel free to drop them back in. Okay, so I think it's really important that we give you a bit of an update in terms of where discipline is at. Ezekiel unfortunately can't make the call this evening for various reasons, but we were absolutely wanted to kind of highlight this to you guys, because at the moment discipline, particularly in the county and nationwide, is a huge problem. As you can see from the graph and the figures itself, and this is taken from January, a time frame from January to May on previous seasons. So our current season sits at 295 cases for yellows, red cards, and misconducts that have come in that short period of time. And if we consider that, I don't think we were playing football until the back end of February, early March. That's a serious amount of cases, and unprecedented. We've not had that in any of the previous seasons, as you can see. Okay, take 2020 out because of obviously lockdowns, but even at the high in 2017, we are more than double at our current cases, which is not acceptable, really. So something's got to happen. So Ezekiel's. So obviously, you can see from the bullet points there, we're having an increase in terms of discrimination, to particularly abusive behaviour towards match officials. I know from some of the calls and conversations that I've had that's quite rife, and also spectator control. Now, I appreciate that it's not everybody on this call will be facing those situations individually, but as a collective, in terms of grassroots football, we've got to start kind of doing something to make that step change. Appreciate that seasons maybe is only a couple of weeks to finish, or a week to finish, but we need to stem it. So really, what we want to kind of stress to you guys as the club side of things, if you can obviously speak to all of your managers and disseminate. We can send you the figures, but please disseminate these stats and these figures across your club so that they're aware of it. I know that some age groups are more of a concern than others, particularly the older generally that it gets in terms of the games. But as a collective responsibility for grassroots football, we've got to make the change. So if you can help us speak with your club members, try to disseminate the message to the players, that will be obviously a huge help. We are currently working. Well, Mel's currently working with Ezekiel and Rachel regarding this and giving the Respect programme a big push for. Particularly at the start of the year, because obviously we want to make sure that these cases don't continue, because we lose players, we lose reps, we lose teams. So it has a big impact on grassroots football. But please, yeah, if you can spread that message, that'll be really helpful. The more proactive you are, the better. Obviously, it is. If we are in a position, unfortunately, and you have cases. If you think it's borderline in terms of Respect or a low-level case, please give one of the officers a ring, because or drop us a line, speak to Ezekiel, speak to Rach, or if it's from a refereeing angle, please speak to Mel to discuss the issue so that it can get reported properly, because ultimately, if these cases are rising, there is maybe an issue socially within people coming back into football, having to have such a long time off that needs to be addressed. So any help that you can offer, that'll be greatly appreciated. Rachel, I don't know if you want to give a brief overview of what you've been working with Mel and Ezekiel over the last couple of weeks regarding this.
I can do. Do you want me to save it for the safeguarding and tie it in then? Yeah.
If you've got it linked into then, yeah, that'll be brilliant. Brilliant. All right. But I just reiterate, guys, I need to stress it because the figures are absolutely appalling. And I know most of you do some great work, all of you do great work in terms of getting grassroots football, but we've got to 295 cases in a couple of months is a limit that we shouldn't be at. All right. So if you can disseminate that message, that'll be really much appreciated. I don't know if you've got any questions regarding that.
Mark, are those figures for the calendar year or the playing season that started that year?
We've got it for this year, 2021 only.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so it's even grimmer reading from from that. I mean, like, if it continues like Ezekiel's put there, it'll be 800 plus cases for a season if that's the situation, which is outrageous. All right, let's talk about something a little bit more jolly. But sorry, but we have to say it. We have to stress it. And I don't know, it's not a laughing matter really. So brilliant. Affiliation, Julie, I can demute and I can pass the floor to Julie.
Right, thank you. Right, Affiliation. If there's any new clubs that are on, new clubs, basically you'd email Debbie Irving. Her email's there, debbie.irving@nottinghamshirefa.com. Once you've emailed Debbie will then send you an affiliation pack, and within the affiliation pack will be a form that you will have to fill in with your 3 main contacts, which would be your secretary, treasurer and chairman. And you would then send that back to Debbie. Debbie and the team will then enter that club onto the whole game system. Once it's on the whole game system, that is when you will be able to log in and see your appointments tab, and you'll be able to then be able to affiliate and add your teams. Existing clubs, you just basically log into the whole game system, down the left-hand side into affiliation, and then start your affiliation process. Bluefin personnel. You have a choice to take out player insurance. You don't have to go with Bluefin, but if you choose to or not, you would need to upload your player insurance, the actual form, when you're affiliating on the whole game system. Your public liability, it's mandatory, you don't have a choice. We purchase this on your behalf. You'll tick to purchase it from us at a cost of £30, and we will send you a copy of the public liability. Submitting the forms for approval. When you submit your forms for approval, there's a few things that it's start to be highlighted that there's a few problems. Clubs are not looking to see if they've got any outstanding debt from this season, which does affect you affiliating next season. So if you have got a few debts, if you make sure that they're paid off before you actually submit the form. All your key members have got to have safeguarding for committee members. If they haven't got it, then they can quite easily book themselves onto a course in the boot room. Anybody, your chairman, your secretary, you're only allowed 2 roles for next season. So you can be secretary or chairman or treasurer, welfare officer or secretary, but you can only have 2 appointments. Teams for the managers, you can only have 4 appointments. So you can only be a manager of 4 teams. And basically what this does is it aids people that are getting qualified up before they're qualified. You've got the manager that's taking them 4 places. Once the other young person's qualified, they can then take over, leaving that person with only 3 appointments. So it aids the clubs to get managers into teams as well. We have recognised at the moment that there is a problem in the affiliation at stage 6 and 7, and it's to do with the public liability. Like I say, we are aware of it, and we are trying to sort this out as soon as possible, because we're fully aware that there's quite a few clubs at the moment that are stuck at step 7. They can't actually submit the form for approval at the moment. So don't worry about it, we are aware. And lastly, you will receive an email of confirmation from Debbie, but you'll know yourselves as well, because where you go down to affiliate, that will turn green. You'll get a green strip going diagonally and it'll say complete. And you'll also be aware, because it will be displayed in your portal on the whole game system when you log in. It'll have your affiliation number. And that's it for me, Mark. If anybody's got any questions.
Any questions for Julie about affiliation? Excellent, Julie. Oh, hang on, Julie.
Sorry, I don't know if it comes under affiliation, just as Julie was talking about setting up for next season. What does the new dispensation pack, what bit, sorry, I'm not sure where that comes under.
The affiliation pack.
Sorry, player dispensation packs for next season.
Player dispensation packs.
You know, where you have children playing out of their biological age group, should I say. We seem to be that we've got quite a few children who have sort of been held back a year at school or deferring school places. And I'm just waiting for the dispensation pack to be released for next season.
Right, okay. I'll put that down.
Brill.
Yeah. I'll get back to you, Julie, once I find out.
Lovely, thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I've got one, Mark.
Yeah, Dave.
So Julie, I'm a bit concerned that we have a number of clubs that's only got 1 team, and obviously there is only one or two people that run the team. Did I hear you right in saying that only one person can hold two positions? So you could have a secretary, treasurer, welfare officer all being the same person.
No, if there's two people running the club, then you would have to have, say, like your secretary and your chairman would come under one person. Then two roles would be under one person. And if it's youth, then obviously your welfare and your treasurer would come under the other person. So you would need two people now to be able to be classed as a club with one team. You can't have one-man bands now.
Yeah, no, I just think
I
just think it may be a bit hard because, like, as you know, I do majority of my club, but I couldn't give anybody else the secretary's job, and I'm the treasurer and the welfare officer at the same time. That's what I'm saying. If it means I've got to pass one of those over, because with me being the welfare officer, everybody knows and trusts me in that position. The treasurer, everybody understands that I deal with all the cash and only me. Nobody in the club does. But as the secretary, well, I don't think I could get another one. So I'm going to be a bit stuck, if you get what I'm saying.
Do you want me to take this from Julie?
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
Dave, I think the main thing for me is some of the issues that have cropped up since I've been in post, is there have been clubs where it's just one person, and then there's been a conflict of interest if there's been any safeguarding issues. So I think it's more around the, if you had to choose to replace, I would say it would be the club welfare officer. For me, it's having that independent person away from sort of like the interests of the club, the business side, if that makes sense. So I know there are a number of sort of, clubs. My son's in one, but they have done it. It is doable, and I think it's more about trying to keep the welfare officer separate from any other roles, more from a safeguarding perspective.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
There's a question. Junaid, you got your hand up.
I have. Just a quick one. I think I spoke to Rachel about this. I think it was Rachel. Insurance. So when we're doing insurance, obviously we have to register an adult team adults teams separately. So I've got one adult team, and then obviously my other ones are under 18. So list them. Do I just get one public liability?
If you've got them registered as two separate clubs, it'll be two separate public liabilities.
Well, last year Craig obviously done it as one because we're one club, but I had to have the adult section separate on hold.
I'm not sure if he's just dropped out, has he?
I don't know. So just all muted then.
Muted everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody just muted me.
Sorry,
No, yeah. So basically, what's happened is it's the same club. So Notts FC got a team in Central Mids, and then underneath that, so Notts FC, and then underneath that, I've got Notts FC Children. So looking at that, obviously, Julie, you've been on it a few times yourself for me. So I've got all the under 18 teams underneath that. So they have to be separate. But Craig said because it's one club, he done one insurance. So that's all I had last year for public liability. So there shouldn't have to be two liability insurances. So the way I was going to do the insurance was all under one way this time. So do the insurance under one way, but it's just on whole game system how it is. I've got two tabs, you see.
Yeah. Right, I'll look into that then for you then, Junaid, and find out how Craig did it under the one banner. But
Sure.
it's normally if you've got club and then your teams, and then a club and then your teams, even though it's one banner, but you've got separate clubs within that banner, and that's where then that you get the different public liabilities, because it's a public liability per club. But I'll
Yes,
have a
there
look
is,
at
Julie,
that.
it is classed as one club.
Yeah,
The whole reason we have to do that is because we have to, due to a whole game system, we have to put them down separately. It's not, we haven't got any choice, even though it's the same club. You can't have well, this is what I've been told over the last couple of years. You can't have an adult team within your younger teams.
Jay, it's Steve from Beeston. We've got exactly the same problem, mate, and had the same issue as you last year. We've got 3 affiliations on whole game, one for our adult section, one for our youth section, and one for our girls section. And when I spoke to Craig last year, he said, because we are nominally one club, we only needed one set of public liability insurance.
Yeah, that's right. Brilliant.
And I think he said just pay for it on the one.
Yes, and then show him the.
And then he would do it to make sure the other 2 were covered, squared away, because we had the same issue as you. And I think obviously been through the same process as you. We were told last year that we only needed one public liability insurance because we were one club, but we had 3 separate affiliations under that club for each of the sections.
Thank you. That's quite interesting, Steve, because I've got the girls just under same tab as the boys for the under 18s. So I haven't separated them on the tab. They still on the whole game system. I've got 2 tabs. That's it.
Right, no, I've got 3. I've got Beeston FC Youth, Beeston FC Adult, and Beeston FC Girls as 3 separate affiliations.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and I can see that quite a few are actually coming up and saying, yeah, we're the same. So we'll look into that and then get that back out to the clubs.
Yeah,
Jules.
Thank you.
Jules, it's because, so basically, yeah, we'll look at the process and then send the communication out. But essentially, because of the way whole game works, you have to affiliate as sectionals, which is what you're on about. So you're not essentially affiliating as separate clubs. It's sectional, and then you're linked within the portal. So each club, so Beeston will have those sectionals linked within it. So as an organisation, it's no public liability is no different for a club than it is for an organisation in terms of you wouldn't take more than one policy out for public liability if you're the same organisation. So let us just pick that up with the team tomorrow, and then Julie and Debs and Matt will all come out in terms of that instruction of how you bypass it on the whole game system.
Thank you, Leah. I think I know how to do it. It's just to make sure that we're all probably singing from the same hymn sheet, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We just need to, in the backing system, need to make sure that the clubs are all linked as parent clubs. So one of your teams will be the parent club, and we'll do it that way. So Julie, we can talk about that tomorrow, no problems. If we need to. Cheers, Janae. Thanks very much. Anything else? Back on mute, no problems. Any other questions regarding affiliation? Excellent. Okay, so safeguarding. Rach, do you want to put all the points up?
Yeah, please.
Was it 7 points?
Yeah.
What's it? Over to you.
Fabulous, thank you. So safeguarding, last but not least, I think from my short time being with the County FA and having gone through the validation process, the safeguarding validation, I just want to go through a few things with you, kind of hijacking this forum to get really secretaries, I think, more than anything. So whole game system, please ensure your data is correct. And for regular checks, I appreciate you have to rely on managers and coaches to update you with that. But when we come to doing validation checks, there was probably 4 out of 24 clubs that actually had correct data. And that's really important for us, that if there is an issue, a safeguarding issue has been recently highlighted, if information isn't correct on the system, and that's regarding players and coaches, then that can cause an issue. So DBS checks, again, if you've got, when they say somebody who regularly helps volunteers in affiliated or regulated activity, this can include parent helpers. So if at least once a week you have a parent helper who you might unofficially call the assistant coach. You got your hand up, Steve?
Sorry, Rachel. There was a document that came out about 3 years ago that explicitly said that somebody that volunteers regularly as an assistant referee or linesman doesn't need a DBS check. Is that still the case, or do we need to get our assistant referees, assistant referees DBS checked as well?
If it's at least once a week, then yes, they need to be
they're not
DBS
involved.
checked.
They're not involved in the coaching. They're not involved in the training. It's just that every match day, it just happens to be the same parent.
Yeah, if
Sometimes
that's
it
the
is.
case,
Sometimes
then
it isn't. Some teams we've got 2 or 3 people that volunteer on a semi-regular basis. So
yeah, I can pick up a conversation with you afterwards. But yes, if you've got
Okay.
somebody regularly every week and children are looking at that person and thinking that they're a club official,
yeah,
okay, definitely they need a DBS check.
Okay,
And
lovely,
for the
thanks.
sake of £10, it covers you. So for your DBS check, so again, your regular, if somebody runs a line every single week, so if you have children who look at that person and think, yeah, they're part of the football club, okay, then you need to add on. So there is on whole game system. Thank you. Sorry, I was just carrying on going through the presentation. So on whole game system, you can add them as a parent helper. So I'm aware that there are some clubs where they're not, the person's not registered, however they help every week. It's really, really important that those people are DBS checked and added to the system. So education and training. So there are the free courses, which again, I've told the club welfare officers about. So safeguarding for all. Could you please encourage parents and anyone over 14? So if you've got young people at your club who have sort of intimated they'd like to help out with coaching, etc. Safeguarding for all, access via the boot room on the FA site. But really, it's about getting parents on board with this, getting the parents to do the safeguarding for all. And I can also come out and do some club training. If you think that there are any concerns or anything local within the community that might affect your club, like I have done with Stapleford, doing some work with Stapleford. We're doing an initiative with Notts County and Life Skills Education. Or if you would like me to come out and just reiterate certain safeguarding facts to managers or coaches, I'm more than happy to come out. And again, this leads on to policies and procedures. When we do the safeguarding validation, because we also do a desktop check of club websites, and what we find is it's either fantastic, gold standard with every policy on there and procedure, or actually not much at all. And in the new membership booklet, I've put all the links. There are all the interactive links, web links for majority of the policies. It's really important as well, because if you do have an issue with a parent or a spectator, and you haven't got them to sign the codes of conduct, or you haven't got a record of that, it's very difficult for them to be able, or it's easy for them to come back and say, I wasn't aware of that. If you make sure all your policies and procedures are on view and accessible on a website, it's far easier to deal with issues. And again, the transparency for clubs when parents want to check things. And again, it's something that we check when we do the safeguarding validation visit. I've put club reputation, get it right and lead by example. And I'm linking this back to now to the discipline figures. So clearly for every issue of discipline when it involves a youth team, there is clearly some form of safeguarding concern there. And what I want clubs to do is get a reputation in terms of, if you're winning matches, great, but get the reputation that you're a really good club to play, and you have good values and a good ethos. I'm quite disappointed for me that there's quite a few coaches and managers that are certainly going through discipline procedures at the moment. And for me, what kind of example does that set for the children in the teams? So that's a piece of work that I want to pick up, and what I'm doing with Ezekiel and Mel, because it leads on to abusive behaviour. Sadly, every single week we get young referees under the age of 18 who are being abused by players, coaches, managers and spectators. I appreciate majority it is spectators. However, what I'd ask from a club's perspective is you can deal with this kind of abusive behaviour alongside any discipline procedures that the county FA or the FA may take. And for me, I'm kind of, if you accept responsibility as a club and take action and suspend a parent, suspend a player or a coach, you're sending that right message out. Referees as a whole get abused. It isn't right whether you're over or under 18, but we have seen some absolutely horrific abuse that, quite frankly, if some of the comments were said to a young person in the street, the offender, if you like, would get arrested without a doubt. So I don't understand why people think that it's acceptable on a football pitch in front of children to threaten to smash someone's teeth in, or tell them they're going to wait for them in the car park afterwards. This is children's football, and I get that, you know, refs don't see everything. They haven't got eyes in the back of the head, and you've got to remember, for our young referees, they're still learning. So there is some work that we want to do with young referees. I'll be doing some training. So with my new club welfare officers, I've got quite a few referees who are more than happy to come on and share their stories. We're looking to do a media campaign. We're also looking, really promoting the Purple Shirt campaign. But it's something that we need clubs to absolutely lead by example and make it really clear that you won't accept behaviour if especially parent spectators, you know, there has to be we have to get it in the mind of clubs that those under 18 referees are children on the pitch just as much as the players. If you've done your safeguarding certificate for children, then that young referee is also your responsibility, and that's something that we just can't, you know, discipline has absolutely gone through the roof. Hopefully we don't have any more lockdowns, and we really need, for me, we have what we call, for me, I'm saying we press that reset button when we come back in September, when we start playing in the leagues. It's not going to happen. We're not going to continue with this. And for me, there is zero tolerance. There'll be a lot of training done out throughout the summer in preparation, and it's what we then expect coaches and managers to make really clear. So committee members to your coaches and managers to your players and your parents, carers. And then lastly, and it isn't something that I particularly like to do, but I will put a club, either an entire club will be suspended or a club will be put on an action plan. So if standards fall short, if I will work with clubs, I never ever want to stop children playing football. But if I think that a club doesn't take safeguarding seriously and that club has youth teams, then yeah, unfortunately, there's an action plan. And if necessary, it then can be escalated to the safeguarding case management team at Wembley. And I don't want to sound like I want to spoil anyone's fun, but for me, children should be having fun. They should be respectful, and it should be a really positive experience for everybody who's involved in football, whether you're spectating, whether you're officiating, whether you're playing. So, you know, for me, can we just try and get that message across? And I'm sorry to end on I feel like I'm pointing the finger and telling people off, but as you've seen with the discipline figures, it's absolutely horrific at the minute. And that's my bit done, really. Nicola?
Oh, hi there, Rachel. Thank you for all that, and totally agree. I'm just going to jump right back to the DBS checks.
Yeah.
I believe that maybe it was earlier this year that the DBS checks were those that were coming up for renewal. They were given like an additional year. Is that still the case?
Right. So what happened there is, so from the 1st of March 2020 to the 31st of May 2021, anybody who was due, their DBS was due to expire, they had an automatic 12-month extension. The only slight change to that is for those then in March, April, May 2020, they don't then get another year on top. You only ever get one extension.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's really helpful. So so it's the cut-off date is May 2021, and any that are coming up after that need to get renewed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more questions for Rachel?
Sorry, Mark, it's Steve again. I must be the only. I've got one of those minds, I'm afraid. The new courses that have come out, Rachel, in terms of the safeguarding courses, are only valid for 2 years rather than 3. I've seen. Now, the previous online recertification course could be taken for free, but I've not been able to find out any information about whether the renewal this time round is chargeable or not.
I think if my understanding is that stops in June. So if you can get on the recertification now, you can. But then I'm sure it's June, whether it's beginning or the end of June, then they're taking that off the system, and then it'll go for the new. You have to do the new course for £30.
And that'll be £30 every 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because obviously you could pay £30 before, and then it didn't matter how long you left it. Every 3 years after that, it was free for a recertification. So they're now putting it up so that you've got to pay for every time you recertify. Yeah.
Let me double check on that with our coach education, because one of them it is you can renew it for free every 2 years. It's just because
yeah,
they
if you wouldn't
changed.
mind, because I know the original face-to-face workshops were you had to pay for. I get that, but then you could renew for free every 3 years, and it seems to be that they're moving it online, which would be less cost. But now they're asking us to pay £30 every 2 years.
I think it is free.
Okay.
Once you've done your 2 years, I'll double check that.
Let us check, Steve. We'll come back.
Yeah, nice one, mate. Cheers, Mark.
I've made a note as well, so we'll drop FA Education online just to double check.
Great, thanks.
I don't know, Junaid, you still got your hand up. I don't know if it's from the previous point, and Nicola as well.
Yeah, mine would have been from previous, but no, my hand's down. My hand's down.
It is now.
Okay.
Good man. Is there any other questions for Rachel safeguarding?
Actually, there's one thing I realise I've missed in terms of new player information. Can you please make sure you ask the question regarding health conditions, illnesses or health conditions and medication? Again, that's something that's come up that it's just really important that we get that information. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rach. Well done. Okay, that's our updates, everyone. So feel free to ask whatever questions relating to club development, discipline, affiliation, or safeguarding, or anything else that's been a concern.
Dave. Dave's got a question.
Yeah, we've got.
Jump in, Dave.
Mark again. Player registration 21-22. I've got clubs that's a bit concerned that they don't know when a player is going to be a free agent, where it used to be beginning of June, and now obviously this season it's carrying on. When will the players become free agents, and when will they be able to start registering for 21-22?
Right, okay. This is an odd one for this season because season have extended to the end of June, and normally players would be free agents from the last day in May to the 1st of July, sorry. But what's going to happen now is players will become at midnight on the last day in June, they will become free agents. 1 second after midnight, they will still be free agents, but they will still be in the existing clubs. And the existing clubs will then, how you normally, when you start your player reg, the first thing you do is you go in and you cleanse it. You get rid of any players that are no longer with the club, and then you start to do the normal sort of player registration, IDs and all that lot. So it's basically, they are officially free totally for 1 second.
So
and it's only because of the way the system will click over for this season.
Right, so come the 1st of July, everybody will be able to register next year's players, and it'll cross over, but not mix up with this year's.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you very
It's
much.
only because of the seasons being extended.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers, Jules. Any other questions? What we'll do, we can stay online as well, just for a little longer afterwards. But we'll close if there's nothing in the chat and nobody else got their hands raised. Guys, thanks very much for your time this evening. Thanks very much for getting football back on the field of play in the last couple of weeks. Whatever's left of your seasons, I hope it finishes successfully, whether that's trophies, whether that's just getting through the last couple of games or surviving relegation, however it works, whatever works for you guys. But a massive thanks for all the time and effort that you put into grassroots football to make it work. On behalf of the County FA, we obviously appreciate all that time and effort. Thanks very much for this evening again, and we'll look to run our club forums every other month going forward so that we can continue feedback loop to you guys to make sure you're well up to speed with stuff. So after that, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark.